No one else is on camera. As soon as someone else comes on camera, this
Right.
Maybe I put some tape over it. Switch the piece. Right. So, I don't get things charged.
I guess if, yeah. Yeah, okay.
How are you doing this fine day? How wonderful it is to see you. Hey, that's always great. That's the name of it. Yeah. You have a Norwegian character, right?
No, Swedish.
Oh, okay. We get it. Yeah. Jeez. Oh, how beautiful.
Norwegians are having a very hard time getting any vaccine. So they're still working quite the moment. So she was supposed to be helping. She works for technology company.
Put that off.
That's worldwide. They're setting up a hospital in Trondheim. Sent there because the young people that are there are having a hard time. Polly has a reputation of being able to school a lot of things over. So she got sent from last job was in Belgium. So sent from Belgium to Norway for a year and a half. But they're working on both. So
Come on.
we got that.
We just did our just we were at my son's last night. So I got up this morning and picked some cherries to try to find it.
Oh, isn't that my granddaughter
We don't have video.
with us.
What?
And we were talking about Norwegian. She was asking
Did you pick the right
how to
video
say
feed?
certain things in Norwegian, asking about what it was like to be there. Yeah, I don't know. Yes. Yeah.
Now I see you. I see me. There you go.
So Swedish
And
is
then
okay.
I like that.
yeah, I know. The Norwegians and the Swedes, it's always okay, but it's no competition.
I'm going, Robin, I'm going with the beach today.
I know that. It's, I work in the doctor's so.
Even though the languages are so similar.
Right on the border, the Norwegians.
Do we have the chalice lighting implement?
Right.
I'll go get one.
It should be wherever the chalice.
Robin, show him to the camera. Show him to the camera. We'll invite everyone to say hi to Toto.
We brought her on a leash,
On a leash.
and she's tied up next to the picnic table.
Gone? Good. Hope she has a safe travel. Yep. Okay, thanks, Doug. Bye-bye.
Do we have a link?
Oh, boy.
For,
Wow. I never found Bunny so responsive. You know, I mean, you know,
I captured her.
you know,
I think you're brain today. Yes. After church? Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Specifically the name of the person who.
sometimes they'll let you hold them, you know.
Yes, after church is a better time than right now.
Where'd you go that you had sunburn?
Oh, I'm not really sunburned. I'm just Scottish. This is the color I turn.
I love that statement. I'm not sunburned, I'm Scottish.
It is.
Is Beth Cosner here?
I haven't seen her yet. Did you email photos for you?
Well, how are you?
Good, but
Be nice after trip.
Our voices are going right into the computer.
What kind of dog?
No sound.
Excuse me. On this Fathering Day Sunday, as we gather to honor those who have provided much to us, this is an opportunity for us to take another step closer to normalcy as we gather in our tent here and with those who are joining us online via Zoom and Facebook Live this morning. So welcome to all of you. We'll begin our time together with a moment of silence, followed by our prelude, Come Summer by Cliff Harden, performed by our music director, Matthew Johnson. I hold before you Harry Mint. It, like me, probably needs a little shave this morning, but in honor of Fathering Day, I feel like this is not so much a problem as it is an opportunity. Our gift to you today, all of the families here, those with people who claim the name dad or father and those who accomplish the tasks of fathering, are invited to take a plant with them today, a gift from our religious exploration program and our Garden On team, mostly via the work of Leo da Silva. The plants that you see on the table before you, and there are a variety, are all able to be planted in sun or in shade except for the butterfly weed, which I'm told needs full sunlight. This is part of the ministry of the Garden On team to help us all begin to cultivate native plant gardens on our own property, a way for us to express our desire to commune with nature the way that nature evolves in the environment that we call home. It is indeed an act of parenting, if you will, that we would plant such plants on our own property, and we would invite those around us to consider doing the same. So our gift to you today is to begin that process. So as you leave, if each family would go and pick a plant of your choosing off of the table, and if we run out of plants on the table, under the shade of the dogwood tree behind it, there are plentiful other plants available as well. We hope that you will join the Garden On team in its newfound ministry to cultivate sacred ground and sacred space by honoring the way nature itself is made present to us, especially here in New England. And I'm very grateful to the Garden On team and to the Religious Exploration Program for helping to plant these plants for us, and hope that you will avail yourself of them as you depart from this place this morning. Pray with me now. Voila. My colleague Peter Fredericks provides our chalice lighting words this morning. We light our chalice for fathers and for fatherhood, for sleepless nights awaiting the curfew breakers, for anxious hours as a driving instructor, for hours spent on sidelines cheering and watching school plays, sometimes resting our eyes, for the pressures of breadwinning and wait till your father gets home, for teaching moments and mentoring moments, for making up answers when you just don't know, but are expected to because you know everything, for scrapes and boo-boo kisses and band-aids, for hugs and kisses and silliness and play, especially in the hour before bedtime, for bedtime stories and early morning ice time, for all the aftershave and ties received as gifts, for handing over car keys and waves goodbye, for father-daughter wedding dances and cradling grandchildren for the first time, for all the moments and all the meaning in the role of a lifetime. We light our chalice for fathers and for fathering. Our opening words this morning are those of my friend and colleague Mike Johnson. I invite you into a period of quiet meditation. Close your eyes if you wish and get comfortable in your seat. Think about a father figure you carry in your heart. I invite you to remember the gifts and the wounds you received from that person or persons. If any feelings come up, I invite you to simply breathe deeply and honor those feelings as a connection with your own heart. I invite you to listen to some fathering words that we don't get to hear often enough. I love you just the way you are. I have confidence in you. You can achieve your goals. I will stand behind you. You can depend on me. I am so very proud of you. Stand up for yourself. Your opinions and feelings are important. I have faith in you. And as we continue, I invite you to breathe deeply 3 times. And open your eyes. And sometimes the wind itself is a confirmation. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester on this blustery Fathering Day. So delighted that you joined us as we take another step back toward normalcy from our time in pandemic response. We share this time together both in person here outside and online with our friends who are joining us via Zoom and Facebook Live. As you are able, for those of you who are joining us online, I invite you to add your name to your video feed so that we might come to know you better and for safety purposes. In the coming weeks, our religious exploration program will also be offering in-person opportunities for our children and youth to gather throughout the summer as we continue to gather here under our tent, unless it is extremely inclement weather, in which case we'll gather inside. Our time together this morning is also a time for us to honor our work in the world, and today is a 50-50 collection in honor of the Worcester Interfaith, of which I have been very active and the congregation has partaken for many, many years. I await the arrival of Isabel Gonzalez, who I believe will be joining us this morning to share with us at the time of offertory so that we might hear something from the executive director. And if she doesn't come, I will talk with you briefly about the experience that I've had this year with Worcester Interfaith. Our 50-50 collections happen on a monthly basis where we collect whatever has not been contributed as the form of a pledge and divide it between the congregation and a community that we support, organization we support out in the community. I hope that this service gives you an opportunity to rest at the forming edge of your own life for a few minutes, to find time to gather yourselves in order that you might partake in the work of the world in the coming days, even as we look forward to warm summer weather. For those of you who are experiencing the end of the school year this year, our blessings to you as you probably head off into what can be the most exciting and exhausting time of the year, and we will look forward to inviting you back in the fall when school begins and another kind of rest and work also begins. So thank you for being here and taking the time to be with us this morning. If you are in need of a large print order of service, please see one of our ushers. They have a few of those for those of you who might find them helpful. And this service is being taped in order to be made available on our YouTube channel and on our website, Worship Archive, to be viewed at later times. I invite you to find that material at www.uucworcester.org. Our opening hymn this morning is number 1007, found as an attachment to your order of service. Please rise in body or in spirit and join together in our opening hymn. I'd like to invite Robin Mitskovich forward for our religious exploration moment this morning.
Good morning. Whoa. Happy Father's Day for everybody who is celebrating Father's Day. And it's so nice to see you all on this beautiful Sunday morning. Our religious exploration program is continuing throughout the summer in a very casual way. Any child that shows up on a Sunday and who would like to hang out in our backyard and care for our gardens and do a little bit of nature talk and exploration are welcome. And there'll be somebody around to greet your child. Tonight we are inviting the youth group over from the First Unitarian to join our youth group for an ice cream social out here under our lovely tent. And we look forward to keeping connections all around the city. And so I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Robin. This time, if there are children present who would like to join Robin in the backyard, you're welcome to follow her there. These are the words of Celine Friesel. Sometimes the world seems an inhospitable place for us. The soul-swept landscape after a nuclear bomb, an atmosphere full of poisons. You take refuge in your bed, wrapped up in the sheets like a butterfly returning to the cocoon. You shut your eyes, begging to be nothing. The world is filled with people who would like to tuck you in, into that unwaning contentment of sleep. So there's one less person to bump into on the street. Others are the poison in the air, the gases that suffocate you and vacate your lungs so that you cannot speak. Others make of the world and spin platitudes into paradigms. Labyrinths you trail, dead ends you accept, and you are unhappy. You are confused. You have lost yourself along the way. And one day you realize the world has failed you. When you feel there is nowhere to go, nowhere to turn to, you should always remember there has been a friend there all along. Silent, content, waiting. When the world fails you, nature takes your hand. Is Isabel here by chance? Am I not seeing her? So I want to share with you something of the nature of the work of Worcester Interfaith, which is a nonprofit organization made up of faith communities and leaders, both professional religious leaders and lay leaders of many different faith communities in Worcester across the faith spectrum. It is an organization which seeks to embody a commitment to justice, to equity, to the opportunity for a community to fulfill its vision of all of the members of the community finding their place in the world and providing an opportunity for there to be an equitable distribution of the resources necessary to live a full existence here in our community. It is an organization that has committed itself this year in particular to making certain that those who are most marginalized have access to what is necessary to maintain and promote their health, especially during pandemic response, and has provided a number of resources to that effect, including cultural brokers, those who have the cultural experience, sensitivity, and linguistic orientation that allows them to become an intersection between largely underserved communities in Worcester and communities that have been marginalized, to make certain that they understand what is available to them, both in terms of vaccines, but also in terms of job promotion and housing and food insecurity, all of the ways in which the community has been impacted by the pandemic response, or the pandemic itself. In addition to that, it has been a part of a number of programs that have, shall we say, stirred the pot here locally. Both the programs for education equity that have helped to press our school system in order for it to take a very serious internal look at the way it applies its disciplinary policy, so that our children of color, especially our Hispanic children and youth, do not find themselves being treated more harshly because of misbehaviors in the school system than their white companions. And also asking some of the more difficult and challenging questions regarding the way in which we are policed locally, in the way that we apply our resources in the process of being policed. It is not an anti-police organization by any means. It is an organization that seeks to elevate the conversation, especially by highlighting the experience of those that have been underrepresented in the conversation for decades and centuries. So it is an organization that is doing powerfully important work, and work that this congregation has remained committed to in a variety of ways through our own Siding with Love organization or group here locally, as well as the new 8th Principal Task Force that has begun its work this year. These are outward expressions of the kinds of values and ideals that we continue to explore as a faith community. So I think it is important for us to honor and celebrate the fact that we are not the only ones that are committed to these ideals and these principles and these values, but that there are organizations in the community at large that reflect the same. And for us, it becomes an opportunity to gather with other people of other religious orientations who find common cause in order to help us reflect and to recreate a community that is more just, more loving, and more hope-filled. So this morning we honor that by taking up a collection as a part of our offering. Those of you who are writing checks this morning, if you want your check to be considered a pledge, please include that in the memo line. If you are offering it as part of the 50/50 collection, you might note that as well. We will once again have an opportunity to reflect that which is most valuable to us and symbolic of our own efforts and our own values in the world each time as we come together and we are given the opportunity to participate in an offering for the ministry and mission of this congregation and the organizations that it supports. At this time, our morning offering will be received.
Yes. Cringe comedy.
Always have visions of waltzing with my wife when I hear that song. We come to that time in our service when we're given pause to consider what is Deepest in our hearts and most profoundly on our minds are in the work of our hands in the days that have transpired, or in the prospect of days to come. Joys and sorrows that touch us deeply and are given another measure of meaning because of our capacity to share them in the midst of a company that claims us as a co-journeyer. So I invite those of you who have joys or sorrows today to come forward and speak briefly into the microphone, telling us first who you are so that those who are newest among us might get to know you better. And for those of you who are joining us online this morning, you are welcome to put your joy or sorrow in the chat, both on Zoom and on Facebook Live, and we will make certain to communicate your joy or sorrow with those who are present here in person as well. Are there joys or sorrows to be shared this day? Yep.
Good morning. My name is Sue Nees, and I have two joys. I neglected to recognize those that helped me out back in May. We volunteer at the Interfaith Hospitality Network over on June Street. Twice, we have 2 weeks out of the year, and we've also helped out a lot during these past year because of COVID. I wanted to thank those that had signed up to be an evening host and an overnight host. We did the Sign Up Genius and put it in the message, and I was, went on to fill in a slot, and it was already all booked up. And so I'm eternally grateful for those, and also for those that help donate for the groceries for the week. I appreciate that. And my second joy is my husband and I have been called to duty next week. So for 4 days, Monday through Thursday, we are babysitting my grandson, and I am so happy about that. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Pauline Corshane. Yesterday was the first anniversary of Joan Webster's death. I hope today that you can keep her in your thoughts and entertain the good memories you have of her. Thank you.
Hi, friends. Deb Zawilski. I just wanted to take this moment to honor and remember my dear dad. His name was J.D. Hall. Really a wonderful, wonderful man. And I posted something on Facebook the other day, and it just struck me. It said, Dad, I want to thank you for teaching me to be the man I am, even though I'm your daughter. And that was how it was for us. He taught me how to, do everything, use tools and wallpaper and ride a motorcycle. And, we just had a wonderful relationship. And, he's been gone 44 years, but I miss him every day. So a wonderful man. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Brianna, and I have a sorrow. On Thursday, my dad found out that he has cancer, and it's the size of a grapefruit. So if, positive thoughts or prayers or anything, thank you.
Hi, my name is Paul, and I got a joy to share that I got a nice letter from Matt, an email, and what it was is that he was saying thanking people for the stuff I do here, and when we're in regular sessions, you usually see me run around, and because sometimes the microphones aren't working, or people are speaking too far away from the mic, or people are speaking too far away from the mic, and the thing I related that to somebody else who was working in sound. He says, you never noticed until something goes wrong, and the other joy is I opened my pool yesterday. Yay! So I'll be having cookouts. I'm planning on having one on the 3rd of July, but I'll keep you posted, okay?
Hi, my name's Lowell. I'm new here. I was raised UU. My joys are similar to what one of the previous speakers said, that my dad taught me everything I need to know in life. And my sorrows are that there's so much inequality in the world.
I'm Nancy. Today I'm filled with joy, I guess. It's part of that lifting of that COVID heaviness that I'm really up here for. It finally lifted, and so I can see all the joys in the world. So I have two kind of father joys. One is an older man who was probably my age, smacked into the telephone pole in front of my house yesterday morning. I actually saw it because I was going out to my mailbox with my dog to put a letter in. And he wasn't terribly unhappy and he wasn't hurt, but he really splintered that pole practically in two, which would have, stopped the electricity and power and everything else. Netflix I couldn't have seen and all that good stuff for quite a long time. But in fact, the pole stayed up. And so, over the course of the next 8 hours, I watched, I believe it was National Grid and a policeman who had to monitor the street, all that, during those whole 8 hours, all day on a Saturday. And these men had to replace that pole, and it was like a dance. It was a miracle. At one point, there were 10 National Grid trucks and probably the other telephone people trucks there working on that pole. So, and I'm sure many of them were fathers, and they were giving up their Saturday for me and my neighbors. I was just, I was so impressed with my thought that, life goes on. There's so many people in our community that help us all the time, help us with our lives, and do it joyfully and well. Just made me feel good. And then the second bunch of fathers is, and Deb will feel this, is the men in my life who helped my grandchildren win softball tournaments. That this was not available to them earlier, to us women. That these men, their fathers of these children, donated their Saturdays, Sundays, and many days during the week to teach their female children how to play softball so well that they won tournaments. So I'm very proud of my son and Jason Lampfer, who is the present softball coach at Wachusett. And still, even though his children are not playing softball anymore, helped my granddaughter's team win the Wachusett Central Massachusetts District Championship this year, despite COVID.
Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Tom Pierce. I just want to say that how much I love you, the congregation. As you know, my wife died last October, and I received probably cards from almost everybody. A lot of the cards had memories of their, how they experienced Rita during her life, and that was very important. And also thank you for attending online anyway, on Zoom, a memorial service. Aaron and Paul did a good job helping me put it together. And on a lighter note, I already seen my son in Austin and for Memorial Day, and my grandson graduated high school, and I'll be spending 3 weeks with my daughter in France in August. So anyway, I'm back on the road again, and I really like the fact that COVID lets us do that, or the lack of COVID lets us do that.
Nancy, your story about the fathers that helped reminds me also of the experience I had when I was doing really Little League, and we ended each practice, however, because it was almost always mothers that that came to pick up their children, right? And so at the end of every practice with all these little tykes, I would send them way out into the field, and then I would line up all the mothers, and they would hit baseballs to their sons. And their sons realized that their mothers had been star softball players. I mean, and were hitting bombs. Like, they were so impressed in that moment. And I'm like, where else are they going to find this out? Right? Grateful to the fathers who did that, and to the mothers who were able to show off a little bit for our children as well. Are there any joys and sorrows online?
This isn't going to work because this doesn't work. It feeds back. On Zoom, Bernadette and Brian Nelson wish to express their thanks for honoring nature and our native species.
Okay. There's a delay between that and this, so it's like, okay. On Facebook, I want to welcome 3 new people that are visiting us today, one of whom is coming from Uganda and enjoying our entire service and wants us to send more, and 2 people that have volunteered to do things in our congregation, and one very special message from Kristen to her husband. Now I have to get back up here where I can see it.
It's now time for a commercial break.
I waltz with you, my big sweet pea.
Somehow I knew that was coming. Let's be in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Oh, big sweet pea in the sky. Spirit of life, source of our inner and outermost being. We gather today with much love in our hearts for those who have helped awaken in us what it means not just to survive but to thrive. We carry within us a myriad of memories, some that we emulate and some that we invoke in those moments when we say, never will I. Help us be mindful of our power in the days of our powerlessness. Help us find gratitude in our hearts for all of those who have reminded us that we have power and kindness and compassion. We would remember this day both the moments of our health and the moments when we invoke the Spirit in order that health might return, not only for ourselves but those who we love. And we also give thanks this day for that which goes on behind the scenes, for audio technicians and coaches who rarely get the acclaim for the service that they embody. Help us to be grateful for that and to remember those who have gone before, our friends, our companions, our families, those who have helped to enrich our lives and for which we are ever more grateful every day. Amen, and blessed be. I witnessed my father cry many times, often in the pulpit, which was against the wisdom of his generation of preachers who were taught that such displays made the experience unsafe for those attending services. He didn't buy such admonitions, and neither do I. I'm not talking about falling apart emotionally in public, but the simple display of appropriate emotion when the Spirit moves, to allow oneself to be present when moved to tears as a witness to the depth and integrity of such moments. That was one of the first lessons I remember learning from my father. Real men cry. To be honest, while I witnessed a few tears in the pulpit, the three occasions when I recall my father crying that lived deepest in me include the first time he saw me without leg casts or braces when I was newly recovering from Legg-Calvé-Perthes disease. Then there was the time that he almost died in a vehicle accident on black ice, but managed to escape without injury, overwhelmed by the experience as he recalled the harrowing events to my mother, my brother, and I. And finally, at the moment of his death, when tears fell as a smile came across his face when he breathed his last breath, surrounded by my brother and I. In all three occasions, my father's tears were associated with experiences that were beyond his control, which had tapped huge amounts of anxiety and fear. Tears released that tension, expressed the joy of life itself, and the sense that he was in the presence of the miraculous. That was another lesson that he taught. Life is miraculous. Not in the sense of the big miracles, where the laws of nature are turned on their head, but in the sense of the perpetual miracles of joy that comes unbidden. When life surprises us in the least expected moments. When clarity arrives without warning and awakenings without explanation. My father was also a master meditator. Years of practice had given him the ability to control his breath and heart rate in ways that sometimes even stymied his medical team, especially if he did this while he was undergoing a procedure, which would freak out his physician. On one notable occasion, he was debating the efficacy of meditation as he was undergoing a heart catheterization, and his physician said, "I don't believe that," and my father said, "Watch," and proceeded to drop only one of the numbers of his blood pressure, about 50 points, at which point the physician smacked him in the head and said, "Stop it!" His gift to his children was to understand that while we could not always control what was happening outside of us, we always had the ability to learn how to control that which was inside of us. If you feel like you are about to panic, he warned, remember to breathe. His greatest gift, I think, at least for me, was the lesson that one begins to address the problems of the world where they touch you, and to have the courage to be touched in ways yet bidden. Poverty and injustice were addressed at our dining room table, which was either filled with bags of food to distribute to those who needed food, or it was surrounded by people planning to march, or it was filled with flyers of information illuminating the next impossible challenge. My father was not a saint, let me be clear. He could be as stubborn as a barnacle on a well-weathered boat at sea. He, off the coast of his beloved Maine, let me be very specific here. He did not learn to care for himself as much as he learned to care for others, and he could never imagine anything beyond what he had already committed his life to. He could be quick to anger, and he procrastinated some, tendencies that I may have inherited a little bit. And even in the midst of his own glorious incompleteness, he had a rich sense of humor. He was often self-deprecating and always ready for a belly laugh. If it's not apparent, I've been thinking about him a lot. And my mother, too, lately. Wondering how they'd have responded to the challenges of the past year. Interestingly enough, the place where I've encountered my father the most has been at the table with colleagues who join together each week for Bible study. Yes, I said Bible study. Your minister studies the Bible. Now, get that shock out of your system and hear me out. This has been a place of solace and strength for me, a place of deep and abiding friendship and expanding awareness. And while I don't often preach from the scriptures studied, the lessons from these gatherings have permeated much of what I have shared here with you, and you didn't even know it. This morning, however, I want to turn to a couple of the stories that we've attended to at these gatherings the last couple of weeks, especially as they relate to the lessons that I just spoke to you about in the presence of my father and mother, as I've awakened to them again this year. The first is a story which I hear as a parable from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 4, verses 35 through 41. Jesus and his disciples are down by the sea, like every single one of us wishes we were right now. And he's been teaching all kinds of parables of the mustard seed, etc., the meaning of which, much to his dismay, is often lost on those who are closest to him. And so the Gospel of Mark reports, on that day, when the evening came, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in a boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was at the stern, asleep on a cushion. And they woke him up and said, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And then the wind ceased, and there was dead calm. And he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea, they obey him?" Two things come immediately to mind for me with this story. The first is, I don't really like Jesus here, and wondered openly why about someone who speaks more gently to the sea than does to his friends. And secondly, those who take this story literally as a testament to the power of the Master miss the point, I think. Jesus has been talking in parables. And here is another. Remember, most of these friends of his were fisher people. They'd surely have had experiences in storms before. This was nothing new to them, which makes their panic even more palpable. Perhaps they have witnessed others lost in storms. Perhaps the storm which is upon them is not a storm at sea at all, but a metaphor for life under the thumb of the Roman Empire, an allegory for the state of the world. If this is true, then perhaps Jesus' calm nature is also a metaphor for how to carry one's self through such turbulent time, not as one who is easily swept away, but as one who has the courage to rebuke the storm itself. Read, speak truth to power. To witness to something far more meaningful than the riches of empire and the threat of violence. And then he speaks to the sea itself, that which is turned chaotic. Be still, he says. And I hear the words of my Father. Remember to breathe. He turns to those with him and asks, why are you afraid? Have you no faith? Which to me translates to, are you still going to be led by fear? Have you learned nothing today? And then the disciples, with spectacular myopia, miss the point again, asking, who is this that the wind and the sea obey? At which point I imagine Jesus throwing himself down at the back of the boat and covering his face with that pillow he had been lying on and screaming bloody murder. It's a story that reflects the lesson of the book of Jonah. Did you know that? Which contains a similar parable which finds the prophet of Nineveh attempting to run away from his life's work, frustrated and angry that he finds himself called to preach repentance to a people that he does not regard as worthy, only to find himself asleep in a boat in the midst of another great storm. And here the sea is calmed only after the crew confronts him and abides by his instructions to throw himself overboard, whereupon he is swallowed by a whale. I thought about that this week with that lobster hunter being swallowed by a whale. Like, Jonah is so real, right? Whereupon he's swallowed by a whale and erped up on the shore of Nineveh, where it was the last place he wanted to find himself in the world. I think that's the moment that Jonah awakens to the reality that one can only run so far from that which life has called them to address. And that the answer to chaos is not to hide oneself, but to literally jump into it. Not to be consumed by it, mind you, but to enter it with a sense of purpose and to rely on it, that which is available to you, to journey toward that purpose for which you have been created and you have been running so far away from. Here again, I remember my parents and my father especially. You can't run away from what you are ultimately called to do and to be. Do not allow fear to dictate your life. Bring all that you are to bear on whatever you encounter. Change the world where it touches you. Teach others to do the same. Never walk away from an opportunity to grow. Be humble. Others have truths that are important lessons for you and their offering to the world. Celebrate them. Greet them as friends, not as threats. Mirror the love that you know. And always remember, you are my beloved child, with whom I am so very well pleased. On this Fathering Day, these are the words that fill my heart and the prayer that I offer you. We have been through quite a storm, haven't we? And it is not over yet. The world is once again at a point of significant transition, and it is filled with that which is experienced most often like chaos. A stormy sea, if you will. We need each other's experience and wisdom. And we ought not run away or get consumed by that energy that seems so overwhelming at times. Let us individually and together change the world where it touches us, remembering to expand the circle of our care with every single breath. And oh, never, ever forget to breathe. Amen. Ashe. And blessed be. Would you please join together in the litany that is found? Actually, your words are very, very simple. When we nod at you, you will say, "These are our dads." Can we try that? These are our dads. Go ahead.
This litany by Amy Petrishaw, adapted by our own Reverend Aaron Payson. We recognize and honor today every dad who stood as their child shouted at them in anger or frustration. Every dad who tried to understand their child's clothing choices, new hairdo or new tattoo. Every dad who suddenly realized their child might be right and was willing to listen. And every dad who honestly believed they were making the best choices that they could.
These are our dads. We honor every dad who screwed up, who got it wrong, tried again, got it right, and often went from being the dumbest soul alive to the pinnacle of brilliance and back again in one day, according to their children.
These are our dads. We honor and recognize today all those who taught us what they knew and forgave us when we got it wrong. Those who wanted to teach us but left too soon, or simply did not know how to teach at all. Those who walked us to the bathroom in the dark, and those who turned on the lights and waited up for us to come back on our own. Those who left us, who let us break their binoculars and steal their shirts, and those who taught us why it was wrong to break and steal. These are our dads.
We recognize and honor today all of the men who taught us what it meant to be honest, even when it was embarrassing, to tell the truth and admit to our faults, to be human. We recognize, too, those fathers who could not teach us these things because they did not know themselves, but who hoped and prayed that we would do better than they ever did.
These are our dads. Today, we recognize and honor all the men who have been there or tried to be there, no matter what. Those who have remained calm in a crisis, and those who could not remain calm but did not run away. Those who did run away but came back again, and those who never came back but always wished it could have been different. These are our dads.
These are our dads, rich and poor, tall and short, slender as a pole and round as a basketball. Quite a basketball. These are the men who helped to raise us and those who formed us through their actions and their lack of actions.
These are our dads. They are our dads, birth fathers and adoptive fathers, stepfathers and foster dads, fathers who have no children themselves, but who step in to help raise the child of a neighbor or a friend. These are our dads.
Grandfathers and uncles, single moms who have had to learn to go beyond motherhood, trans dads who have given birth, trans dads who didn't, queer dads and gay dads and female partners willing to take on the role.
They are our dads. Through love and hatred, joy and tears, addiction, mental health issues, perfect health, sickness, aging, wealth and poverty, absence and presence. These are our dads.
They are because of us.
We are because of them.
These
are our dads.
Would you please join together in our closing hymn, number 1015. I think I'm going to sing the first verse, and then you're going to sing it back to me, and then we're going to go on with the rest of the verses. How's that sound? So that you might come to know the hymn. Try that one. Our benediction this morning are the words of Cheryl Strayed. When it comes to our children, we do not have the luxury of despair. If we rise, they will rise with us every time, no matter how many times we've fallen before. I hope you will remember that the next time you fall. I hope I will too. Remembering that is the most important work we do as parents, the most important work we can possibly do. May that be our prayer this day, to go forth from this place with that work foremost in our minds, in our hearts, and on our hands. And when we fail, to remember to get up, to breathe, and to go on. Amen. And blessed be. Once again, beloved, worship in this place has come to an end, but our service continues. Next, with an opportunity for us to gather for informal conversation or to take over the administration building for the sit-in. I don't know which. Depends on where you've gone with that last piece as to what you're going to do next. Thank you for being here. May yours be a wondrous and wonderful Father's Day.